have to wrap myself in my blankie
Oh.
before we get started here.
You look very
'Cause
cozy.
it's chilly. Because I'm a duly appointed federal marshal.
A marshal.
Okay, a couple things before we get started here. And we're going to go right into the plot of this
Fuck
film.
yeah.
Shutter Island, a Martin Scorsese film from 2010. Welcome to the podcast. Whatever, shut up. Have you ever seen the Amityville Horror?
Yes, I have.
That movie sucks fucking balls.
Hey, what the hell?
I watched it over the last couple of days. It's one of those big famous horror movies that
Yes.
I've never seen before. Fucking sucks.
Which one? The Ben Affleck? Fucking...
No, that's Good Will Hunting.
The new one?
No, the
modern
original.
one? The original one. Okay.
It's terrible.
I mean,
It was. I'm not surprised that it got such poor reviews in the day. Nothing happens in it. It's awful.
But it's based on a true story.
A true fake story, yes.
Is
a
it
true,
really?
a true
Is it
story
fake?
that's incredibly fake, yes.
Oh.
It's like a hoax.
Well,
Yeah.
then that just kind of takes
Yeah.
away from...
I agree with Margot Kidder when she was like, Christians are crazy, but they made this movie very successful.
Damn.
The other thing, I just wanted to say that because it's almost Halloween. I'm watching some horror movies. To cleanse my palate, I was watching Misery. I'm like halfway through that.
Oh my God.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it before. It's awesome. Love it. The other thing, though.
Didn't you say you were a writer, my dear?
What? No. You're mistaking that. I did once say I wanted to be kidnapped by Kathy Bates.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's my fetish. Is I want to be kidnapped by Kathy Bates in her unsinkable Molly Brown costume from Titanic.
Kathy, call my boy.
The other thing, we watched a film last night called I Saw the TV Glow.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of that movie?
I cracked it in the first 5 minutes.
You knew it was what it was about, definitely.
Not even,
Yeah.
and I had read nothing about it, and I felt very proud at being able to put 2 and 2 together in my tiny little mind just from the color sequence.
There's not a lot to crack about that film.
Hey, how dare
Because-
you? I worked very hard for 5 minutes.
But wasn't that movie like?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a short film stretched over an hour and 40 minutes.
I think it's marketed as a horror thriller.
Not a horror.
Not a
no.
horror?
I really wasn't enjoying the first 40-ish minutes of it or so, and then
Yeah.
I started to like it more. But
Mhm.
it was pretty like nothing is happening
Yeah.
in this film ever.
I think the true scary part of this movie, or whatever it's meant to be, kind of evoke, is that the real horror is that you don't realize yourself, or you don't realize let your true persona or like true self come out.
That is also I read that the creator talked about that's part of the kind of the trans mythology of it is the idea of not living your true self is a big theme of that film.
Yeah.
Which I will say I didn't totally enjoy that movie, but I did think about it quite a lot in
It's
the
like
reason.
we're still talking about it, right? It's in our mind.
I thought the ending was really great.
Mhm.
It's for anyone who doesn't know, it's a television. It's a film about 2 teenagers who have the worst fucking taste in TV.
And
Anyway,
hair.
today we're talking about Shutter Island, a much better movie. But we want to go over the plot because you got to go over the plot to really understand this film. And as a master plotsman, I'm here to guide you.
Hey, yeah. Just want to say there's going to be hella spoilers. So if you, like me, have never seen Shutter Island before, or plan to do it, skip ahead because there's going to be hella spoilers.
Yeah, like if you're just waking up from a coma or you've been under a rock,
Hey, what?
and you haven't been catching up with the work of the greatest filmmaker alive.
Who is it?
Mr. Marty who? Scorsese?
Marty Scorsese?
Marty Scorsese. All right. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Ruffalo, 16 other big fucking names, a bunch of Academy Award winners, including that dude who's in the prison in this film, and he's like, I'm fucking George Noyce. Anyway, that guy is great. Teddy and Chuck, played by DiCaprio and Ruffalo, they travel to Ashcliffe Insane Asylum or whatever, which is on Shutter Island in the Boston Harbor. There's a bad storm a-brewing, both metaphorically and literally.
Stop. He wrote it down.
Literally.
Okay. Yeah.
They're looking for a patient, Rachel Solando, who went missing. Mm-hmm. She murdered her 3 children. That's why she's there. She didn't go to do that. She murdered her 3 children is why she's there. Mm-hmm. She has never once admitted that she's actually in an insane asylum. I want to point out that the part where fuck you, OneNote, that's the part. Fucking fuck off, you fucking piece of shit. Whoa. Jesus Christ.
Our sponsor.
Sorry to our sponsor, OneNote. I hate you. There's a scene in this bit when Kingsley is explaining what happened. Now, we'll get into it later, and I'm not going to hover too long on this, but Kingsley is very good in this movie. Mm-hmm. And the part where he's like, it's as if she evaporated straight through the walls. That sends a good shiver up my spine every time he says it.
Oh.
Just, it's so like evocative the way he like spreads his hands out, and I'm just like, yeah. Ben Kingsley is a good actor.
That guy?
That's what I think.
Old Ben?
The staff, Kingsley among them, aren't very cooperative. They interview the staff, they interview the other patients of the asylum who are all kinds of, whacked out for different reasons. Mm-hmm. I'm using very, very cool and inclusive language to describe people who are mentally ill. And I'm sure everyone will appreciate that.
Well, crazy.
Yeah. They find out that Dr. Sheehan, who was Rachel's doctor, had left to go on vacation right after she disappeared, which is not the least bit suspicious. During this time, Teddy, Leo DiCaprio, he has headaches and he has flashbacks of the liberation of Dachau in World War II. Mm-hmm. This movie, I forgot to say, it's set in 1954. He's a World War II veteran, so is Chuck. He also has dreams about his dead wife, played by Michelle Williams, not in a wig, I don't think, in this one.
In a better one.
A better one. Who died in an apartment fire set by an arsonist named Andrew Ladis.
Right.
And Teddy reveals that he believes Ladis is on this island. He's kept in Ward C, where all the most violent criminals are kept. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to kill him, but he wants to talk to him, or he wants to get closure or something like that. He also, because of his experience liberating Dachau in World War II, he is suspicious through meeting another inmate who had stayed there that Ashcliffe is experimenting on humans, just like the Nazis did in the concentration camps, and he wants to expose it.
So he's got more than one reason to be at Shutter Island.
He's got many reasons.
Yeah.
Solando resurfaces and seems to have not, there doesn't appear to be anything, besides the obvious, anything wrong with her. Mm-hmm. Basically, the hurricane gets worse. They can't really leave the island. It fucks up the electrical fence that's surrounding Ward C. They sneak into Ward C, and Teddy ends up talking to George Noyce, the guy who told him originally about Ashcliffe and the human experimentation.
Yeah.
Noyce tells him that they're getting lobotomized in this creepy old lighthouse that has armed guards around it.
God, yet again a lighthouse.
So, furthermore, and quite importantly, when Teddy asks him how George Noyce got there, he says, "You put me here." So this is a clue to what's going on.
Dun, dun, dun.
They go to try and break into the lighthouse. He tells Chuck not to come with him, and then he thinks he sees Chuck dead on the rocks below the cliffs. Mm-hmm. He tries to climb down. He can't make it. He finds a cave. He finds the real Rachel Solando. She tells him that, yes, they are experimenting on people. If you speak out, they will experiment on you, lobotomize you, and imprison you here, which they try to do to her, and she's trying to escape.
Wild.
And they'll do it to him. He eventually does make it to the lighthouse, where he finds Ben Kingsley, and Ben Kingsley reveals that Teddy is actually Andrew Ladis, and he is having delusions because he witnessed his wife drown their 3 children in a lake, and then he killed his wife. And he's been unable to cope with that reality, and so he creates an elaborate role play in his mind.
Yeah.
And he's been violent with the other patients.
For 2 years.
For 2 years. And he does this forever, over and over for 2 years, and he becomes violent, and they've threatened to lobotomize him. Mm-hmm. Ben Kingsley is against that. He wants to treat, and he establishes throughout the film that he wants to treat patients. Mm-hmm. And he's trying a radical new procedure, and if it doesn't work, he will be lobotomized.
Right.
Andrew, Leo, he finally admits that, this is all real. I admit my situation. Mm-hmm. I remember what happened. Kingsley warns him that this had happened 9 months previous, but he had regressed, and he's afraid that will happen again. Mm-hmm. A little bit later, Dr. Sheehan, who was Mark Ruffalo all along, who had been keeping an eye on him, comes to Andrew as he's sitting on the steps, and he says, what's our next move? And Andrew says, clearly having relapsed into his delusion, he says, I think we got to find a way off the island. And then he says, Chuck, is it better to live a monster or die a good man?
And then he walks off to get lobotomized.
He walks off to get lobotomized.
Damn.
That's how the film ends. Now, the ending.
You want to start at the ending?
I want to talk about the ending.
All right.
Because to me, I've seen this movie a bunch of times. I saw it in theaters when it first came out, and I really enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of this film. I think it's one of Scorsese's, on subsequent watches, I think it's one of Scorsese's lesser works. Yeah. But I think it's a very, very good movie. I think it's a masterwork of editing. I think Thelma Schoonmaker, one of the the great editors of our time, does an incredible job in this film.
Yeah.
But the ending. Now, something that frustrated me in researching this film is that other people debate what the ending is. And I think the ending couldn't be clearer.
What do you think the ending is? That is so
He's
clear.
voluntarily lobotomizing
Yes,
himself.
of course. Yes.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Do you agree?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, podcast over. We're done. I don't have anything else to say about this fucking movie.
You know what? And I'm going to be one of those assholes.
My God.
Who's like, I figured out what this was like 5 minutes in. Because, come on, TBH, they're like, we're U.S. Marshals on a rocky boat.
With duly appointed federal marshals.
We're going to go to this facility. And it's like, come on, man, you are the facility. Like right away. Straight away, I'm like, come, look at you. You're handcuffed. There's sick on your tie. You hate being on the island. Like
there's a million clues
along the way.
When you watch this, I know you as you do. You said you'd never seen this before, right? Or you forgot.
Yes,
so you had no memory of it, which I think is kind of cheating when you're like, I figured it out. It's like, well, you have seen it before, technically.
Well, but not in a way that I know the ending.
I think you need to go to jail.
I need to go to Shadow Island.
You sound like an insane person. But
hello, Ben Kingsley.
Like when you watch it again, there are all these like clues and stuff. Like the fact that Ruffalo can't undo his holster in the first scene when they try to take their guns.
Yeah.
The way that there's a scene with an inmate and she takes a drink. She asks for a glass of water. He gets the glass of water. She takes a drink of water, and then the next cut, the reverse cut, she doesn't have a glass of water in her hands.
She's like just pretending.
She's pretending to take a drink.
Empty hand to her mouth.
What I think that is that Andrew is not allowed to have glass near him because he could use it as a weapon. That's my interpretation of it, but also it could just be a delusion. The other thing too is that when he asks who Dr. Sheehan is, that she looks off camera at Ruffalo. And then when they all gather in the like storm shelter from the hurricane, they're all staring at Andrew Laeddis and they're all scared of him basically. Yeah. And it's very like, there are all these like interesting clues. But I don't think the first time I saw this, I was like, he's definitely this isn't like a Fight Club situation. Like it's been him all along. Like I didn't really know that, but obviously something else is going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Because of like all these leading instances of everyone handling him with kid gloves a little bit.
Yeah.
It seemed like, okay, man, come on, something is up.
You can even go far as back as like the very first scene when he comes out on the deck and he's like, hey, who are you? He's like, I'm your new partner. And then he's like, I forgot my smokes. And he gives him cigarettes. And then that forever, he
never lights it.
For like the first half of the movie, he never lights his own cigarettes. Yeah.
Do you think he's afraid of fire?
I think his delusion is that he is afraid of fire because of Andrew Laeddis, the arsonist, played by Elias Koteas in his head, essentially.
Yeah.
But he's Andrew Laeddis, but he's not an arsonist. His wife is Michelle.
Right.
Michelle Williams. She tried to burn down the building. So I think he is afraid of fire, but he's also afraid of water. So this guy can't do fucking shit.
So just for my clarity, this fucking wacko.
This fucking whack job can't do shit.
He has lived in 2 homes, I think, right? One that his wife burned down in her manic state or depressive state.
Yeah.
And then they move to this beachside home, lakeside home.
The lake, yeah.
And she's obviously still very depressed and she drowns her
She's a manic depressive, severely bipolar person, I believe. And she drowns her children.
Because of the way Leo DiCaprio's character like never almost never touches fire except for when he has to walk through a very
He's got
dark
the matches,
room with a bunch of matches. And then also him kind of having been on this island for so long and being afraid to swim, or he's just like, oh, I get motion sickness all the time, or I feel he's afraid of fire and water, and he's surrounded in a place.
But then again, he does jump in at the end to get to the lighthouse. He swims across, and he doesn't seem so afraid of water that it's impeding him as a duly appointed federal marshal to do his job.
The idea that he has to swim through to get to the lighthouse is in his head, because at one point they show that the lighthouse is connected by land.
Well, okay. I saw someone online make this comment. They were like, "Wait, at one point there's a bridge, and at one point it's connected by land." It's like, bitch, the tide goes down. Like it's just the tide.
Yeah,
it's clearly like you can see when he looks down the first time he tries to get to the lighthouse. You can see where the tide is hitting the path that would be there.
Okay.
So the tide is up. That's basically it. But I think that, again, like the delusion of him being a federal marshal, it like disconnects him from his exceptional fear of water so that he can swim across water and fire. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a very good movie.
It's definitely an airplane movie for me. I wouldn't it's like fun. It's like, even if I know the ending or don't know the ending, it's like exciting. It's a little trashy.
Can I like pinpoint what my biggest kind of issue with it is as compared to Scorsese's other work?
Mm-hmm.
Just a little backdrop here for people who don't know. Martin Scorsese is a very good filmmaker. Okay, we got that out of the way.
Who's that?
He's been at it for a long time. He's just under the radar. People don't really talk about him much, but he's a very good filmmaker, and I love a lot of his work. My favorite film of all time is The Departed, which is undeniably the best film ever made. There's no question or like there is no, and I'm not joking.
Of course,
I'm dead serious.
You've seen this movie like 1,000 times.
There is no debate. That is the greatest film ever made. It goes Departed, Citizen Kane, Sex and the City 2, Taking the Arab Peninsula. So my problem that I kind of have with this movie in comparison to a lot of other Scorsese's movies is, what the fuck is this movie about? Really? Like, what is it trying to say about anything?
Mm-hmm.
I like Scorsese. I've read a couple Dennis Lee Haynes books and things. Like, he's a very good writer as well. But I struggle with figuring out what this movie is trying to say. And a lot of his other movies I don't struggle with.
Oh, well, I mean, if it's like a whodunit approach, like it's like a detective thriller meets kind of Hitchcockian vibes.
But I mean thematically,
and ultimately it's about compassion.
That's what struck me on this watch was the what's the word for it? It's not like meta. It's not metatextual, but like the story that's happening between Max von Sydow, Ben Kingsley, and Dr. Sheehan, who are all doctors here, and clearly von Sydow and Kingsley are struggling in this power battle between psychiatric approaches.
Yeah.
And what struck me on this watch that we just watched is how much I feel for Ben Kingsley's character.
Yeah.
And how much he is actually a very good and decent man.
Mm-hmm.
Von Sydow seems a little bit more like, stab him in the orbital bone. I don't give a shit. Like, they're violent and they're scary.
Yeah.
You watch, they stumble into a debate where Kingsley is like, they're debating what to do if the hurricane floods Ward C. And he's like, if you chain them down, they'll drown and die. And then he's like, it's better they're chained down than running around like this and being dangerous. He's like, yes, but they're 24 humans.
Yeah.
So, and Naring von Sydow doesn't care.
And this is set in, you said 54.
54.
Yeah.
But that struggle, it struck me so much harder this time. I was like, Ben Kingsley's, his performance in the scene where they reveal what's happening, it's so touching because he's like, I want you to know so we don't have to fucking lobotomize you.
Yeah.
Which is a fate possibly worse than death. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess not for the victim of a lobotomy.
I mean, I don't know that. Having not been lobotomized myself, but I'll try it out for the pod or whatever. Yeah, Mr. Beast.
For the pod.
Mr. Beast can probably fund me on that thing. But like but besides that, like I struggle with what this movie is trying to say about anything.
Yeah.
And have you seen Silence?
No, that's the Andrew Garfield's.
Yeah, and Adam
No.
Driver, Andrew Garfield, Liam Neeson. A Scorsese movie that some might lump into like the same kind of tier of Scorsese films as this.
Is there like a trifecta of these films? Shutter Island, Silence.
Trifecta how? Like how would they
like
be connected?
Thematically of like sorrow and like trying to get away from it.
Well, no, because Silence, even though despite not being a religious person, Silence is like, I think Silence is almost a masterpiece. Like it's touching brilliance in many ways, and it's like very, very, very good. Even despite it not being, it falls short of being a masterpiece, but it's still like a fucking awesome movie. But I remember watching it in theaters too, and when you get to the end of it, and I recommend you watch it. I recommend anyone listening to this, if you like Scorsese, watch it. You get to the end of it, and you're like, oh, I understand why it's called Silence, and it's very good in that way. And now I understand why this movie is called Shutter Island, because the island is called Shutter Island. But the theme of silence kind of like rings through the film very clearly. And I think it's very powerful for that. And this movie, I think, lacks that extra oomph that you're like, oh,
yeah,
that's what this is trying to say about.
That's why it feels a little bit popcorny, right? It's entertaining, of course it is.
It's why it feels a little bit lesser for Scorsese, right?
Yeah. Given the kind of 4-hour prestige films that he's used to doing, or how he goes out of his way to make sure that the characters are as human as possible and not like manufacturing dialogue in any way. And even in their compassion, like the way Ben Kingsley talks sometimes, it's like, all right, what poetry book did you pull this dialogue out of?
Yeah, I think someone, there was like one of the reviews I read a snippet of it was like, this movie is like, it's like really well made. It's a really entertaining mystery, but at no point are you like emotionally invested very much.
Yeah.
I don't find much of an emotional connection, but except what interests me is except to Ben Kingsley in the end. I was like, I feel for this guy's struggle.
Yeah.
I really like that about the movie, but like that said,
but that's not until the end.
It's
right?
not. Yeah. Because the rest of the time you're just kind of like,
what an asshole.
He seems like a dick. Like, you know, and like, I mean, the mystery isn't interesting enough to maintain itself. I don't know, like there's parts where the film drags because of that, and I don't know.
I think it's because they made Leo DiCaprio as a U.S. Marshal also kind of crazy guy.
Excuse me, a duly appointed federal marshal.
There you are, a federal marshal.
Federal marshal,
Mr. Boston himself.
That's where I'm from.
They made him just as kind of manic as Andrew Latis, his normal self. If in his mind he saw himself as a kind of a stoic or like a quiet detective who's observing and he's like so intelligent, or he separated himself personality wise enough from Andrew Latis, that might make you more compassionate because like, oh, he's just so sad on the inside for his wife and his her death, and there's all these moments of him like poetic like imagery of him holding her body that's like turning into ash,
which is like, you should feel emotional in that moment, because you said, so that song, that Max Richter song, right? You were like, isn't this like from something?
Yeah.
And something about the score of this film is that it's Robbie Robertson, quote unquote, did this score, but really he just selected pre-recorded music, like classical and other type music. But they use that Max Richter song, which is beautiful. Like he's a beautiful composer, and it's a beautiful song. And those moments where he's like, he hugs her and she turns to ash are so fantastic, but
you don't feel anything.
It doesn't hit that hard though,
because he's already said some things on screen where he's like, oh, why don't you kill these fucking crazies? He's like walking through the hospital being like, kind of, I just want my cigarettes, and I'm here to solve this case.
Teddy Daniels, the duly appointed federal marshal, he like clearly doesn't believe in psychiatry.
No.
As the other character, this delusional character, he doesn't like believe in psychiatry at all, and so it's so antithetical because like Ben Kingsley, when he's like in his office, he was like, "This is fucking impossible," because this guy doesn't even believe he can be helped.
Yeah,
and that's like part of the problem. And and he's just like, and then in the end, you're like, I don't think, I'm not like, people should be lobotomized. Like I don't think that. I think that, like, I agree with Ben Kingsley. It's like people should be helped and they should be treated like humans and things like that, despite their mental problems. Like, I completely agree with that. But in the end, it's like, so I think what happened to him is like so inconceivable that you're just like, this is such a depth of like, of mental impairment that I can't personally like it's like, oh, it's so horrific.
Well, how is it any different from death in a way, right? It's that ship of Theseus thing where you've taken away the parts that make him.
Yeah.
So easy.
But also like just like the scene with Michelle Williams, like, and the dead kids and stuff. It's just it's so awful and horrific that you're just like, I can't really fathom how this is supposed to feel. Like it's just awful.
Oh,
you know? Yeah.
Because his solution too, at the time, in his state of mind, seeing his dead kids, is to kill his wife.
Which is also awful.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going the Ben Kingsley route, it's like, does Michelle Williams deserve to die for doing something that was completely out of her control due to insanity, right?
So Andrew Laeddis then obviously does not believe that she is mentally ill. He thinks she's just evil or cannot be helped.
Maybe.
And there's no such thing as psychiatry for her.
But his guilt is also, like, part of his guilt is the fact that he also didn't get her help, didn't help her herself, right?
Yeah.
He isolated her in this, like, lake house, even though he knew there was something wrong. Yeah. And he's guilt-ridden from the liberation of Dachau, where he may have killed people in cold blood, essentially, even though they were Nazis. Like, and that has haunted him. Obviously, he's haunted by the vision of the girl clutching her mother and things. This movie has, like, it's got all these pieces.
All these layers.
And it just, like, it hits, like, 7. It gets, like, 7 out of 10. Yeah. And doesn't get further than that, you know? Ultimately, go fuck yourself, Marty. No. I don't know. Like, I find it interesting for that because I absolutely love Martin Scorsese. And this is one of his movies that I just don't feel anything for. However, it's not as scary as Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. So, you know, if you're...
Oh, my God. Oh, jeez. Oh, what the fuck? Oh,
that was like his... Alice, you've never seen it?
No.
This is like his second movie, and it's like a real family drama. Oh. And like if someone was like, oh man, you got to check out Marty Scorsese, Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Departed, and then you're like, Alice doesn't live here anymore. And it's like this little family drama about a woman and her son. Like,
oh, dude,
it's a good movie though. It's a good movie. It's just not a
it's
Marty movie. Yeah,
it's hard to believe for me that it's a Martin Scorsese film.
Oh yeah, yeah. But he also, like, I mean, he did the fucking what's it called, the Jesus movie. What was it?
What other goofy one has he done?
Well, okay, I've never seen New York, New York. I've never seen Age of Innocence.
Oh, right.
And I've never seen Kundun. Marty, I liked it.
Marty.
Those are the only 3 I've never seen of his, I don't think. Oh, I've never seen Hugo, because why would I? Also, like, Hugo is weird. He did Hugo directly after this film. Okay, so another thing with the production of this movie, Scorsese, like, recently, I believe, in interviews when he was talking about Killers of the Flower Moon, which is a good film, he reflected on, like, his career. And I think at one point there was a couple aggregated news stories I saw where people were like, he regretted making Shutter Island. But really, like, what he said was he was trying to get financing for Wolf of Wall Street, and that kept falling through. It just wasn't working out. And so he made Shutter Island and Hugo. And he said that he was like, I wish I had just gone forward and made Wolf of Wall Street. I don't think he regrets making those 2 movies, but, you know, Hugo is like that weird. He's like a weird I've never seen it. I've never bothered to see it. No. Yeah. It's so bizarre that it's a Scorsese film.
For some reason, The Lost Temptation of Christ is on this list. But
that is him. No, that's the one I was talking about. That's the Willem Dafoe Christ movie.
That's right. Okay. Oh,
that's a good movie. That's a very good movie.
Oh, shit.
You never seen that one either?
No.
Oh, good movie.
Whoa.
Yeah. All right. You got a hot take about this film, you said.
Well, we talked through the plot, and one of the endings, when they tell Andrew Laeddis that Teddy Daniels is just an anagram and kind of revolves around Rachel Solando is kind of the anagram of that.
For his wife.
And how he's got like 4 names, and they're all just an anagram of each other.
The rule of 4. No, he has him and his wife are anagrams of 2 other names, so there's 4 names.
Right.
Yeah.
Shutter Island is an anagram for truth and lies.
No, I knew that.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh, the build-up.
How is that a hot take?
That's a hot take. It's hot because it's a spoiler, and that's why anyone who goes in and they're like, I didn't know the twist till the end, is like, read an anagram.
That was on like the IMDb trivia page.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. It's like the first thing. In
IMDb.
Nice. IMDb is an interesting resource because you have to sift through so much garbage of like the thing that I really despise about it, I know it's community made, so it's like not supposed to be great, but like the thing I hate about it is like, it's like Leonardo DiCaprio and Michelle Williams once did a film together, and I'm like, I don't fucking care. Why are you telling me this? And it's like, Leonardo DiCaprio also once did a film with Ben Kingsley, and it's like, who gives a shit?
Well, if you enjoyed the chemistry, then you have yet another thing to partake in.
Oh yeah, the scorching chemistry between Ben Kingsley and Leo DiCaprio. I don't think
he
they ever
shoots his wife. I can't wait to see more of that. He talked to her for 2 minutes, and then he's like, honey, shut the fuck up. And she's like, but I love you, teddy bear. And she shot him anyway.
Yeah.
The fun of this movie is to sit and talk to your friends about scene by scene. Oh my God, did you catch this thing? When he like blinked at this guy weird, or when he kind of winked at him and la la la. So there's 2 ways to watch this movie. One,
naked and alone
afraid?
in the dark. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. That's
just the way.
That's the one first and I say only way to it. Yeah.
That's the way Marty would watch it.
Yeah.
On a tiny little screen in your hand.
Yeah.
So one, you go in blind, not knowing anything, and you don't guess anything. So you are as blind as Leo DiCaprio's character is, and you think he is the marshal. Yeah. The entire time.
Yeah, that was my experience of seeing it the first time.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Then it's like such a fun movie, and I feel like I got robbed of that a little bit, because that would be what a great reveal at the end. Then what a fun kind of surprise to worse because he has a terrible ending. Because you stayed with this guy for so long, and they're like, wait, he's a crazy guy. Wait, he's also getting lobotomized?
I think the ending is amazing. I think the bleakness of the ending is awesome.
So good.
And frankly, it's the best. It's like the most part of the film that works the best still on rewatch. Like I said, I've seen this movie a few times. And it's not that it diminishes. I thought I would have more to say about it. Yeah. But it's weird to see, like, I looked up, like, I was like, does anyone have anything to say about this movie? I looked up on Reddit and seeing people talk about it, and I'm like,
it's like rave reviews. I didn't see anything medium about it.
But like, it's just weird seeing people debate the ending when I'm just like, oh yeah, it's not up for interpretation. I just don't see how anyone could, unless you're willfully ignoring certain things. And I'm like, and some people are fucking dumb, and they were, but I was like, I really don't see how this could be interpreted another way.
I wonder if it's like a switch that he is or was lucid momentarily. He realized he is Androlatus. That's when he said, "Is it better to die a good man or live a monster?" And then he like switches back.
Well, that's what Dennis Lehane said. Because that ending or that line isn't in his.
It's not in his book.
So I've never read the book, but it's not in his book. And he said that he thought it was like, it's a moment of lucidity.
Yeah.
And
which makes more sense than him like becoming this messiah, like this heroic take on like, oh, I just gotta. It's like worse than suicide.
I disagree. I think that like, I don't agree that makes more sense. I think that he knows the whole time. He understands exactly what he's doing when he says like, we got to get off this island, Chuck. And then he knows that like I also like Mark Ruffalo, one of like a brilliant actor, but when he says that to him and Mark Ruffalo stands and he's like
Teddy,
he's really disturbed because he's like he might know what he's saying, you might know what is going on, but he can't say anything, right? Because they're basically like they have the ice pick in their fucking hand. Yeah.
And
he's like, oh,
they come hold him with like an ice pick in their hand when they come together.
Yeah, I thought that part was. I was like, maybe like keep it in the lighthouse. You know? Yeah, Jesus. Ted Levine, you fucking psycho.
It's so funny when. It's
I don't think many parts of this movie are very funny.
At all. Yeah. But it's
when she drowns her kids, babe. Is that what you were gonna say?
Yeah. when Teddy gets up, Androlatus gets up, and he's like, I gotta go get
got a lobotomy to
get my head done in.
Yeah.
But Chuck calls him Teddy.
Dr. Sheehan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does he call him Teddy, but then like Leo DiCaprio doesn't turn around or anything?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Don't ever ask me.
Do you think that was like a believable?
Well, I guess if
the revelation,
if he calls him Teddy, and Leo turns around, it's confirmed that he is still delusional. But if he's Andrew, he wouldn't respond to Teddy. Yeah. So that's confirmation that he knows that he's Andrew. He's pretending to be Teddy, and pretending to be Teddy gets you stabbed in the eye.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, that I get.
Yeah. Yet more proof that I am correct.
There's like many layers to him. It's like, I know who I am, but you don't know who I think I am.
It's so it's so funny because like the entire movie, you know what's equally interesting only to me is that when I first saw this, I didn't even remember that it ended that way. I just was like, oh, this is a great movie. And then when I rewatched it years later, I was like, wait, that is the ending? And I was like, oh, sick. That's so much.
It's very good.
It's great. And the movie like hinges on the greatness of the ending, and yet it's not not a movie where you're trying to interpret what's going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not that like that's not what I want to do. Like I just want to celebrate the fact that this is still, for Scorsese, a very underrated film.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, despite being probably in his lesser third of films for me.
Oh, what a feat still.
Along with Goodfellas, Raging Bull,
Casino,
and Taxi Driver. They're all terrible. The only good movie is After Hours. But despite being, this is like miles better than most other like psychological thrillers. It's a fantastic film. Like, and I thought I would have more to say about it. That's all. So anyway, rank every Scorsese movie. Go.
Oh, stop. You know what I mean? But the two ways that you can watch this film, and one was you go in blind, not knowing anything.
Yeah. What's the other way? Sorry.
The other way is you watch it a second time around, and then you still get to.
So you can watch it. You have to watch it both ways. You got to go in blind, unless it's been ruined for you. By the internet.
Yeah, like the ending, and then you're like, all right, fuck, I watch it anyway, and you watch it, and then every scene is a special delight where you're like, oh, he gave him that hint. Oh, he winked at him different. Oh, that nurse like passed nothing to this guy and he's pretending to drink a glass of water, and everyone is just a little bit off.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, like, I didn't know what the twist was when I saw this the first time, but I did notice the drinking thing. I was like, that's no. The very first time I saw it, I remember very specifically being like, "What the fuck is that? What happened?"
Okay,
it's very weird. But like,
do you know when they're interviewing the patient?
Yeah,
the lady.
That actress is great too, and I forget her name.
She's great.
She's fantastic.
She's like, "Oh, can you give me a glass of water?" And as soon as Chuck gets up, she just scribbles "run" in his notebook.
Yeah.
How is that helpful to Teddy?
I believe that's just a red herring. Like that's the other. Like this movie is also replete with red herrings, and
like the double Rachel Solandos.
I have to say, as much as I love like Ted Levine as an actor, the scene where he picks him up and talks to him on that drive, I find a little bit like, I get that you have Ted Levine, and if that scene was cut, he wouldn't have a line.
No.
But I kind of am like, I don't know if that's necessary. Like, I don't really care for it.
He could have been the angry other like police guy, whoever was like, oh, God is violent and men are violent.
Who, Ted Levine? No, that is Ted Levine.
Oh, is that who? He's like a marshal. He's like a different guy.
The guy who when Leo sees him, he's like, looks like a ex-military prick.
Yeah.
That's Ted Levine.
Oh shit!
From Silence of the Lambs, right?
Oh, got it.
Put the lotion in the fucking basket.
Okay. I thought you were talking about a different guy.
You think I was talking about the Zodiac Killer? What's his? I forget his name too.
Jake
We're
Gyllenhaal.
So good at this. Like, we're amazing. It's so, you guys don't even know. So prepared, and we're so smart.
Take me to Shutter Island right now. They need me at Truth and Life Factory.
I think like it's weird. I always forget in this movie because Elias Koteas plays the Andrew Latus of his mind, and then later when he finds George Noyce, every time I watch this movie, I'm always like, oh yeah, he's going to see Andrew Latus. And then he gets to the cage and he's like, oh yeah, that's Elias Koteas. And then it's fucking that other guy, the guy who plays Rorschach. And I'm like, oh, right. Elias Koteas is in like one scene.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Steals it though. Crazy eye.
He's a fucking great actor. It's a movie full of great actors.
He looks like he's been in a crash. He was good in the movie The Crash.
Crash, Best Picture winner 2005, yes.
Yeah. The Shutter Island of cars.
What is your favorite Scorsese film?
Come on, Goodfellas.
Yeah. Do you say it like that all the time?
Come on, fellas. I say, hey, wise guy. That's the one.
Do you call it Casino?
I was a baby when I saw it.
Really?
And it just like sunk right in. I became that person who was like, this is going to be the fucking type of film I will live to enjoy for
you
the
say
rest
baby
of my
when
life.
you might have been like you were 19. Like how old were you when you actually saw it for the first time?
I came back from school, like middle school or something.
All right. An age.
14?
Yeah. Okay. That's about the time. That's
13?
about the right time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So mine is obviously The Departed.
Of course.
And I remember it had won Best Picture before I had ever seen it. I had seen it like a year after it won Best Picture. So I lived in a small town. We only had fucking high-speed internet for like 3 months until I got into movies, basically. Yeah. But my mom went to a theater. We didn't have a theater in our town. She went to a theater somewhere else. She came back and she was like, I saw The Departed. And I was like, what's that? And she was like, oh, it's the movie that won Best Picture. And I was like, oh, is it good? She's like, it fucking sucked.
And you were like,
and
this
for
is
like
going to be...
a year, I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's too bad. Then I watched it. Oh. And I remember watching it the first time. And I went upstairs to my mom. I was like 16. And I was like, that movie is like the best movie I've ever seen. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
You know what? How weird would it be if your mom, a mother to a 16-year-old was like, The Departed fucking ruled. My little son, I can't wait for you to grow up and go watch this movie.
But my mom's got good taste, though. Also, I believe we were talking in like a group of people later, and we were having this conversation with like a group of people. And I was like, I really love The Departed. My mom didn't like it, and I think my dad had seen it by that point, and there was a bunch of people who hadn't seen it, and he was like, "Is that the movie where everyone dies at the end?"
Fuck up. Bro.
Yeah.
Classic dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did it again.
Yeah, I'm sure he did that on purpose.
Oh, Papa ceiling. How could you? How could you?
Oh, man.
What's your least favorite Scorsese film?
Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. It's like...
Oh, let's say the mainstream ones.
The mainstream ones?
Like, because that seems like very... like a rare known.
Okay, can I, it's not my least favorite, but can I give you maybe like my hottest opinion about Scorsese?
Of course.
I think he's so hot. No.
Sorry.
Well, okay, a couple of my hottest opinions are that I really love Gangs of New York, which I talked about on a recent episode.
Yeah.
I think The Aviator is one of his best movies. I think it's like, I think it's an incredible film. I love The Aviator. I can do a great impression of whatever her name is in that. Lydia Tarr. Mm-hmm. My take that I don't talk about with a lot of people, I am not crazy about Wolf of Wall Street. I think it's great.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's a very good film.
Well, yeah.
But there's large aspects of that movie that I don't like. Like I just don't find like funny or entertaining.
Yeah.
Because I hate drugs. I hate swear words, and I hate oral and penetrative sex. I think it's awful. And you shouldn't show it on film.
Yeah.
But I liked it when I first saw it. I still like it. I still think it's a very good movie. I just have of his movies, like I wouldn't even put it even in the top 10 for me. Like,
do you think it's the fandom?
No, I've just rewatched it over the years, and like I think it's the fact that there are parts in that film, not that I just don't care for, that I literally hate. And in most Scorsese films, I don't feel that way. Like most of them, there's a lot, like Casino, there's large swaths of that film. I'm just kind of like, whatever. Like Casino, as compared to Goodfellas, Casino and The Irishman. The Irishman is one of my favorite of Scorsese films, but those movies are the perfect film to put on in the background and not have to listen to. They're amazing.
Yeah.
There's always something interesting happening on screen, but Casino, there's large parts of it where you're like, I don't care. Yeah, but there is parts of Wolf of Wall Street that I'm literally like, I will skip past because I'm just like, I hate this part. It's so stupid and just not funny and like interesting. Yeah. But also large parts of it I love. I think they're great. Namely, I can't think of anyone's name today. Kyle Chandler. He's so good in that film. I love Kyle Chandler. But also like, I don't know. That's my biggest like scorching take about Scorsese. And we're saying this now because we're never going to talk about another one of his movies because all of them are critically acclaimed.
Yeah,
so,
it's like
yeah.
I was shocked to find out how low a rating Shutter Island got.
Me too.
I didn't think it would qualify for this.
Yeah, I would I would love to talk about Silence, but even Silence was like quite well received.
Yeah.
But I think by the normal kind of Scorsese barometer, the fandom of him, people are like, what the some fucking Japanese Christian movie? Like, what the fuck? But it's truly a fucking brilliant movie. I really love it. Yeah.
Damn. I've been trying to watch it, and it's never on streaming. Almost never anywhere.
It was on Netflix for the longest time. And I rewatched it. I rewatched it a couple times while it was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And so me and my brother saw it, and I really liked it the first time, but I liked it even more after I read the book, and then I watched it again. And I was like, this is a very good movie.
He does have a good eye for reading scripts and then some.
The interesting thing about him is that he almost, with a very few exceptions, almost always adapts material, which you wouldn't think, right? Because he's like, it's the same with Kubrick. Like, Kubrick almost always adapted material.
Yeah.
But besides like Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy and After Hours, maybe a lot of Scorsese stuff is based on previous material. Of course, Bringing Out Your Dead, which is an incredible film, is Paul Schrader doesn't adapt anything. He's just like, no, ambulance workers. Nicolas Cage.
That's a great Schrader.
I like ambulances and Nicolas Cage.
I'm just tired all the time.
Imagine them in the streets in New York. Scorsese, Marty, what do you think? Yeah.
Oh my God. What are you doing here, sir?
Anyway, that's enough Scorsese chat.
Why do you think he always gets Leo DiCaprio in all his fucking things? Almost all the time.
He did it. He went a long time with Robert De Niro too. It's,
Oh yeah, true.
He just likes working with them.
Yeah.
Leo, I don't know if you know this. Leo is also a very good actor. Have you seen The Beach?
Tell me how many Oscars he has, babe. Talk to me then.
15 or so. He must, considering how many times he's been nominated. Oh my God. Can't believe he's only won one. I mean, he's just, I don't know. They work well together and they make great work. Like, Gangs of New York is awesome. The Aviator, I truly believe The Aviator is like Leo's best performance.
Definitely.
And he almost carries that movie in so many ways. And like, yeah, and I don't know. They just actually, sorry, I take that back. Leo's best performance is The Departed. But The Aviator is a close second. But The Departed, I think, is also Leo's most underrated performance. Because, like, I've seen that movie easily 100+ times. And I always get caught up in the fact that I'm like, I don't ever think that this is Leo DiCaprio. In Wolf of Wall Street, Wolf of Wall Street, he's so Leo-y in a way. Yeah. And The Departed, I'm just like, he's just some fucking criminal. But he's not. He's so good. He's so subtly good, you know?
Wolf of Wall Street, you could have, sold me that it's just fucking some crazy guy. He is so believable as that fucking wacko that I didn't think more than once that it's like, oh, it's Leo DiCaprio acting as some guy. He is the wolf. Like, he is the fucking crazy guy. Everybody else is like, okay, and he's talking to Margot Robbie. Okay, and he's talking,
But, like, I think in that role, sometimes I don't think this is a great barometer by which to measure the quality,
like believability of it.
But no. I'm going to say something else, not the believability of it. I think lots of people could play that role, and there's something to me. And I know not everyone agrees with me, but there's something special about the way The Departed was casted. Certainly Leo and Matt, where you're just like, these guys are the only people who can play this role. Anyone else you think of is like, they couldn't even, I don't even think they could switch roles. Like, I don't think it would work as well. And like, even so, The Departed originally, Brad Pitt was going to be in it to play Leo's role or something like that. And you're just like, that would not work. And then you get Leo and he disappears into this in so many ways. With The Wolf of Wall Street, sometimes I'm like, there's a lot of people I think who pull that off.
I have a proposition for you.
All right.
And I want you to take a pause
Marty,
before you answer.
Tune in.
What about in Departed, Jake Gyllenhaal instead of Leo DiCaprio?
It would work, but not as well.
Not as well.
No. Gyllenhaal,
because it's like too pretty. You think it'll be like you get. He can be ugly.
I don't believe Gyllenhaal much as a criminal, despite seeing the brilliant Michael Bay film Ambulance.
What Nightcrawler and well, he's not really.
But that's a different type of criminal than like an organized criminal. He's like a sociopath. Yeah. Like the thing with Leo's character in The Departed. Enemy. This is gonna be a Departed podcast from now on.
Yeah, man.
No, like the thing about it is like he's also smart, right?
Yeah.
He's Leo in that movie, Billy Koskin. He's the smartest person in a room full of average guys. And the only person close to as smart as him is Matt Damon. That's what's so interesting about it. Gyllenhaal is like a little too innocent. And so Billy has to be smart enough to know he has to behave the right way.
Yeah.
But also reveal himself to be having a complete breakdown outside of those times.
Yeah.
To the therapist and to, all the stuff. It's a great fucking film. I love it. It's so much.
I know the one person it'll be a crime to replace in The Departed.
I'm gonna say it right before you say it.
3, 2, 1.
Simu Liu.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, Mark but he's another role in The Departed though.
I know, but he's the only person to me. He's like, oh, you need this guy. No one can be Mark Wahlberg in this.
You mean in his role?
In his role.
Yeah, again, that's what I mean. Like the casting. Same with Alec Baldwin.
So good. Oh my God, of course.
The casting of that movie is impeccable. And beauty. People will argue that Jack Nicholson is bad in that movie. And I don't disagree, but I also think he's so bad, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So do you want to hear my brilliant thought about The Departed? A movie that I think needs no changes. The person they should have cast as Jack Nicholson is Ian McShane. He's Irish. He was hot off Deadwood. He's the perfect guy. He's in John Wick.
Oh.
For you youngsters.
Oh,
he's in John Wick.
This guy. The guy with the face.
But that said, what we got is Jack Nicholson being the craziest motherfucker alive. And I love it. I love him in that film. Yeah. Smell of fucking teeth and gnawing rat. We got to wrap this up before we talk about every Scorsese film.
Oh, but I've been having so much fun.
I have been having so much fun. We will be the first people to ever do a podcast dedicated to Martin Scorsese. Thank you for listening. I've been John. Shutter Island is a good movie.
Hell yeah.
The ending only means one thing. I don't know why you'd be listening to this if you haven't seen it, so whatever. But thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.